Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Bikes or Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And I'm so happy to be back this week. After last week's episode, I put out a call to action, and y'all have stepped up in every way imaginable. I couldn't be more grateful, more humbled, and I've been brought to tears on several occasions just by by everything. It's been overwhelming. It's a hard thing to do to ask for help, especially when, nobody made me start a podcast. Nobody made me travel around and interview people and spend all my money trying to produce this show. But I had to realize that this show has become a lot bigger than just me. All the guests, all the listeners, everybody who's been involved on so many levels that I couldn't just fade off into the sunset without giving you a chance to let your voice be heard. And I'm here to tell you that your voice has been heard, and Bikes or Death is not going any damn where. Thanks to you. Thanks to companies in the industry who have stepped up to support Bikes or Death. We're not all the way to our goal, but the response has been so overwhelming. I know that we're going to make this happen. So before we get to today's episode, let's give a huge shout out to all of the newest patrons that have stepped up to be sustaining members of the Bikes or Death podcast. As you learned in last week's episode, I literally cannot do it without you. So let's give a huge shout out to these patrons that help keep the lights on and keep the Bikes or Death podcast showing up in your podcasting feed. This week's newest patrons are Paul Ress, Barry Spies, Ryan Williams, Robert Vanderblumen, Aaron Chamberlain, Brad Cook, Amos Mayberry, Jonathan Robert, Lewis Clark, Anthony Patterson, Thomas Lane, Alex Tribble, Brad Carmen, Brian Ha. Next one's tough. Kamal Hadamli, Casey Bredesen, Ryan Pliley, Matt Hopkins, Abby Shalek-Briska, Haley Reeves, Seth Newsom, Chris Wallner, Christopher Moore, Carrie Box, Cody Richrath, Kyle Pedersen, Alyssa Naranjo, David Tuttle, Tim Kennedy, Bradley Benavides, Simon, Rick Glenn, Matt Hickey, Bobby Wintle, shout out Bobby, Kyle Aldridge, Bradley Craig, David Graham, Leo Ronan, Andrew Schneider, Fallon Fontenot, LL Ray, Brian Couchman, David Milam, Isaac Ramos, Gil Montag, Chris Ross, Matt Burris, Jessica All, Gil Morellis, and Jim Dunn. If you lost count, that is 50 new patrons that have signed up since last episode, and that is what I call showing up. Damn, I love y'all so much. Thank you. And we're not done. If you'd like to support these newest patrons and sign up to be a sustaining member of the Bikes or Death podcast to make sure that these episodes keep coming in a timely manner, you can find out how over at patreon.com/Bikes or Death. There's a lot of additional benefits to becoming a Patreon other than just helping to produce this show. We also have a patron-only podcast called the Bikes or Death After Party. We have patron perks and discounts to the Bikes or Death web store and all kinds of other goodies. I'd like to especially highlight a new patron perk from our friends over at Rock Guys. We're now going to be doing a monthly raffle drawing to win Rock Guys gear. This month's giveaway is going to be a Space Link, which is a cool little product that they have designed that keeps your handlebar bags and your top tube bag all tidy up on your cockpit area. Without this little device, your bags tend to slide around and move around a lot, and this little Space Link keeps it all together nicely, tightly. I've been using mine for several years. I have it on every single bike I own, and they're freaking awesome. In addition to a Space Link, Rock Guys is also going to be giving away a camp bandana. So to sign up and be eligible for that, all you have to do is head over to patreon.com/Bikes or Death. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month. And as long as you sign up before the end of July, you will be entered to win that monthly drawing. Now, speaking of Rock Guys, they have also stepped up to support this show. You may not know that Rockgeist is a cottage gear company. It's based in Asheville, North Carolina, and they specialize in custom frame bags, accessory bags, and welded waterproof gear from their porcelain rocket acquisition that happened earlier this year. The biggest projects they're working on right now is releasing their 52 Hertz. It's a welded waterproof roll top frame bag and getting their bar jam harness machined locally in Asheville. They take pride in their small batch, made in USA ethos and prioritize high-end fabrics with innovative designs. So to stay updated on their product releases, it's best to sign up for their newsletter at the bottom of their homepage. Just visit rockgeist.com to find the link. And they also give BOD patrons free shipping in the US and will even credit back some of the shipping costs for international orders. So that's even more reason to sign up as a patron. This week's episode is also brought to you by Ruby Coffee. Ruby Coffee Roasters is a small coffee roasting company based in central Wisconsin in a small town called Nelsonville, Wisconsin, with a population of only 191. I love that. The company was founded by Jared and Deanna Linsmeyer and built out of the spare bedroom of Jared's childhood home, where they built on Jared's 12 years of experience sourcing and roasting coffee. Ruby designs their coffee lineup around complex, dynamic coffees while making sure that their roasting profiles make these coffees easy to brew and enjoy. As a small roasting company, Ruby focuses on buying coffee from small farms so they can showcase truly unique coffee quality. And all of Ruby's coffee is roasted to order, so the coffee is always fresh at your doorstep. Ruby's menu rotates seasonally to reflect the growing and harvest seasons of the coffee farm and deliver freshly harvested and roasted coffee directly to your door. While you're over there, I'd encourage you to check out their single serve and instant coffees that may be particularly interesting to bikepackers and campers and outdoors people all over the world. Now, they've set up a special discount code just for Bikes or Death listeners. So head over to rubycoffeeroasters.com. Check out all of their coffee offerings, and whenever you found the perfect coffee just for you, put it in your cart, use the code BikesOrDeath, and get 15% off a one-time purchase or 20% off the first shipment of a subscription. I'd like to especially thank all the patrons that signed up, whether you're new this week or you've been around for 3 years. I'd also like to thank Rockgeist and Ruby Coffee for really making this episode happen. Last week, I wasn't sure if we'd be here this week, but here we are, and it is all thanks to y'all. Now, let us get to today's episode because it is one that I am super excited about. If you followed the Tour Divide this year, you may have noticed a somewhat unfamiliar name on track leaders this year, going toe-to-toe with Jay Petervary, who went on to win the Tour Divide, but it wasn't before getting a run from his money from Brendan Heinig. I'll be honest, Brendan is not a person that I was familiar with before this race. And if you know me, you know I love an underdog story. Just reference Liam Glenn or Andrew Honorma or any other episodes that I've had where I really like to get to know the quote-unquote underdog. I always think that it's such a cool aspect of our sport that literally anyone can sign up. You don't have to be a professional sponsored racer. Anyone can sign up and do this. And so anytime I see a name that I don't recognize that's putting down a really great performance, my podcasting senses get super tingly, and I was laser focused on this particular race. If you didn't follow along, I kid you not, for the last 1,500 miles of this race, Jay and Brendan yo-yoed back and forth, and I don't think they were ever more than about 20 miles apart. They were on a similar sleep schedule, their pace was similar, and as we'll learn in today's episode, Brendan just couldn't shake them, and we go through his entire experience from, what led him into bike packing, his original run at the Tour Divide in 2015, and bring him all the way into his spectacular effort at this year's Tour Divide. I truly enjoyed this conversation. It is always great getting to know people in the community, and Brendan is no exception. So, without further ado, let's get on to the interview. Take it away, Miles.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You're could be with your friends, or you could be alone. You ride for a day, or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes. Or death. Bikes. Or death. Podcast.
No trick questions. I mean, we're just going to be talking about, bikes and bike racing mostly. So pretty easy stuff. You should be an expert at this point after spending the last couple of weeks out there riding your bike. You're basically a professional right now.
Oh man, riding with Jay, it doesn't feel like I'm anywhere near that level, but
well, I mean, you definitely held your own for sure. I mean, regardless of who you were up against, I mean, it was an impressive race, and it was so much fun to watch. And I personally was rooting for you big time. And I love an underdog story. Like, we just had Liam Glenn on. I don't know if you are aware of him, but he won the Highland Trail 550 on a single speed rigid against the full field. And then, like Andrew Honorma, he went head to head with Ted King on the Arkansas High Country. And I just personally love a good underdog story. And I'm like, if you look at the starting line, if you're going to put money on somebody to win, I think almost everybody would have put money on Jay. I mean, it's a classic route. He's the veteran. You kind of think that he's going to probably take it down. But yeah, I hadn't heard of you before, man. So it's super cool to chat.
Yeah, it's fun. It's something cool about these types of races is like, yeah, there's the, kind of handful of known names usually every year. And, but anyone can take it. I mean, you put in the work. And
well, that's what makes bike pack racing and ultra endurance racing particularly interesting for me is that, Leanne Glenn is a perfect example. Andrew Honorma is a good example. I'm guessing we're going to get to know you a little bit more, but I mean, not professional athletes, but can line up against, some of the top names. And honestly, and the other, it doesn't even matter if you win or not, like winning or being at the front of the race is cool. But the fact that anybody can show up, like Gary Johnson, the presidential candidate, is out there right now. If you want to go and do it, it's open season. So anyway, man, I'm a big fan. I definitely followed along. I was posting updates on social media constantly. I didn't tag either one of y'all because I didn't want to blow up your phones while you're out there or anything. But I mean, I was posting the dots and we were having conversations, and I even have some listeners that ran into you out on the field and were giving me live reports and stuff. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, man.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So when I say I'm excited, I'm super excited to talk to you, man. It's so cool to watch a dot, don't know you at all, and then get a chance a few days later to talk and be okay, what really happened, and kind of get your side of the story. So, I mean, first off, I guess to fill in the blanks for anybody who isn't caught up to speed yet, you are fresh off of the Tour Divide Classic route this year. So going back to, what was it? The, 1999 route, something like that, 2,479 miles. You finished in 15 days, 2 hours and 15 minutes, and you took down second place at a nail biter. I mean, it's funny to call it an ultra race a nail biter, but that was a nail biter of a race. So seriously, dude, congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it was quite the experience.
I can't wait to hear about it. I mean, first question is, I think today's 7 days since you've been off the Tour Divide. So how are you feeling?
Getting there. The first couple of days were rough. My stomach was just not happy. So it was tough to get down calories, and I was feeling just so tired. I lost probably more weight than I think is healthy out there. I lost 15 pounds or something in 15 days. So I don't know what happened. I felt like I was eating enough, but maybe my body stopped absorbing crappy gas station food after a while.
I always do wonder about how athletes are able to sustain their bodies on these maximum efforts, because you're not getting high quality, fuel. Most of the times it's just junk food or gas station or whatever. And so it's always been a curiosity of mine that people can even sustain these efforts off of such terrible food.
I know. Yeah. It's something that I think I need to work on, because certainly like if I ate a sandwich, like the few times that I actually sat down to have a burrito or a sandwich or whatever, I felt way better. And rather than eating like gas station muffins and pastries and trail mix and all that stuff, it's just like, as soon as I sat down for 30 minutes and ate something real, I just felt like so much better for the next few hours. And maybe that's just calories, but I think there's something to real food that really helps. And I think some people, like, I know Jay, like, he tries to get real food as often as possible and bring it with him. And so I started to try to do that whenever possible, but it's not always practical when you're out there and all that's available is a single convenience store or whatever.
Yeah. What's your diet normally like? What do you typically eat? I guess I'm kind of curious, like how much of a shock it was to your system.
Yeah, I think, when I'm riding, like if I'm doing a training ride, my calories are very similar to what I was eating out on the divide while riding. I'll eat muffins and like I try to kind of simulate what it would be like in a bike packing race. But the difference is during training rides, I come home and I make myself a meal. So, and try to eat mostly vegetarian and eat a lot of like salads and stuff like that. And you're just not getting that quality of food during something like this.
Yeah. Sounds like definitely a good learning experience, and one that you can only obtain by doing it. It's hard. You can't simulate. I guess you could, but most of us don't have the time, and it's hard to motivate yourself just to go on a 2-week training ride.
Yeah. Most people do not have the time to do it. And I'm sure it's not the healthiest thing in the world to simulate.
No, I think that's probably the more important factor is like, if you're going to put your body through that much kind of bad stuff, strain, situations it hasn't been in, you're testing your digestive system and everything else. It's like, probably don't want to do that all the time. I'm no doctor or anything, but from what I understand, like doing those a lot can be ultimately maybe detrimental long-term, but
yeah, probably.
Who cares about that? Let's live in the moment. What about physically? Like, how are your body feeling? Any aches and pains? How's your ass feel?
Nothing like really specific. Like I didn't have any crashes. I'm not like really sore. I'm just like tired. Like I've been sleeping a lot, and I've been lying around a little too much. I feel super stiff and haven't been on the bike yet. Yeah, I just been like kind of slowly every day getting a little bit more energy and meeting up with friends. But yeah, nothing like, not like sore. I just feel fatigued, and hands and feet are a little tingly, just like general like numbness, but nothing super bad. No knee pain, no particularly sore muscles, no Achilles issues, nothing like that. So
that's impressive. That in itself is a success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It really is. You don't hear that often after that kind of a race. And you're at the pointy end, so you're definitely pushing it. One thing I wanted to ask you was about your saddle sores. I saw one of the questions was online that you really didn't have any issues with saddle sores, and that I think you took 2 chamois and you said you were really good about hygiene. But I thought that can you tell exactly what your system was there, and probably some people might benefit from that.
I'll first say I did start to develop some saddle sores around the halfway point. But I was able to keep them under control where they didn't get super bad. And I just kind of increased the frequency in which I was just keeping things clean down there. So my system was 2 chamois. One was the same exact chamois, but one was a bib and one was just a short. And they fit slightly differently, which I think is helpful. So if you can find like 2 different chamois or just 2 things that fit slightly differently, I find that helpful, just to like have the pressure points be in slightly different positions. And then, I would just like swap them out daily. I would wash whatever one I was just taking off. I would wash in like a bathroom sink or whatever with whatever hand soap was there, just by hand. And then just kind of like wipe down my sit bones at the same time. And before going to bed in the bivvy, I had wet wipes and just clean up down there. And I used like a single antibiotic, like cream or whatever, like bacitracin, I think is how you say it. And I just like apply that before hopping in the bivvy, just as like an extra precaution. And that was pretty much it. And that worked pretty well. I mean, my butt is not like the skin down there is a little flaky and like tender, but nothing catastrophic.
Yeah, I mean, I hear, you hear about saddle sores on top of saddle sores and that kind of thing. It's just
my God.
A week of bleeding, and it's just like, I
Yeah.
can't wrap my head up. So where did you learn that method? Is it just something you kind of figured out that works for you over a period of time? And by the way, I love your idea of 2 slightly different chamois. That's like, I never heard that, but that makes so much sense. Just put that pressure, that fit in just a little bit different place. Smart. Yeah,
I just figured it out over time. I did a tour last year. I was really anxious to see family, and after like COVID was kind of in like a low point, like the end of summer. Mm-hmm. And so I rode my bike from the Cutthroat from Colorado to New York, and it was all road miles, but it kind of gave me a chance to test some of that. So I did the same thing, 2 different chamois, cleaning regularly, and I didn't get any problems. And now, granted, that was like easier because it was shorter days and on pavement, like no constant vibration, but it was a good test. So I kind of like knew what my plan was before that, but that kind of solidified it. And it worked. It worked for this. It worked for Tour Divide. I mean, like saddle sores are essentially just like a skin infection, right? It's like, so if you can keep things clean, you're still going to get sore just from like the vibration and all that stuff. But if you can keep your butt clean, you'll have a much better chance of preventing sores from developing.
My method is to do nothing and slowly build up. Now I just have like leather down there, but I haven't tested it on the Tour Divide yet, and I don't know. I think probably being hygienic over that long, because you're not taking showers, you're not cleaning, all the things that I'm typically doing. It's just kind of gross, and so I think hygiene's probably better. Well, I want to back up a little bit. I want to know what your name is. I know it's Brendan, but on social media was one thing. On Track Leaders, it was another.
Oh yeah. So on social media, I just use Brendan James. James is my middle name, but my last name is Heinig.
Okay.
So
yeah. Just for future reference, as a podcaster, I didn't appreciate that you were harder to track down. I put out I'm giving you a hard time, but early on, I was trying to figure out who you were. I wanted to like know about you. And so I put out a message on my Instagram, like, does anybody know this guy? And of course somebody did. And so they shot it to me, and it turns out I already followed you on Instagram actually, but you're one of these guys that posts like once a year. And so it's just like Liam. It's like when I was interviewing Liam, I was trying to research the show, and he never posts anything, and so anyway, kind of giving you shit, but I was kind of, actually, to be honest, I think it's more fun to like not know and be like, oh man, this is gonna be really exciting. It's a little more exciting, because I can go on and read everything on the internet. You're just kind of tell me in a different way, maybe. But I always like to get to know people. You just don't know a lot about. So, all right, we know what your name is. What do you do for work? I'm always curious what people do for a living that allows them to take 2 weeks off, tour across the country, go visit family, that kind of stuff.
I'm an engineer by training, mechanical. I have my degree in mechanical engineering. And what allowed me to do this is I actually just left my company about 2 months ago. We went through, it was a really small company. So there were 3 of us last year when we went through an acquisition, and that went through. And then I stayed on for a year and decided recently that, I knew I was doing this and I was ready to just do something new professionally. So I left, and now I'm going to go figure it out. But yeah, I'm an engineer.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Does it seem to you like there's a disproportionate amount of engineers that do really well at ultra endurance cycling?
Yeah, I meet a lot. And I think this isn't always the case, but I think things like just like experience working on your bike. I mean, you don't have to be an engineer to wrench on a bike, but it just having like the ability to problem solve is really helpful. And I think there's just engineers tend to nerd out on bikes a lot. Like they get into it. So
I would guess it's a puzzle, right? It's a big, big puzzle. It's figuring out how to get your gear right, your body right, your nutrition right, your sleeping right, all the mechanicals, so yeah, I think like I'm the furthest thing from an engineer. I don't even know if I can spell engineer, but I can definitely, it's a puzzle, I can see, I've known a lot of engineers, and you can always tell when you're talking to an engineer by the way, not all the time, obviously, but a lot of times they just look at the world through engineering eyes, and everything's a puzzle, and they want to figure it out, and they want to dissect it and all that kind of stuff. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, it definitely does. Even beyond like just the purely like mechanical, electrical stuff, just like that idea that like you're putting together a puzzle, and the route planning and like the research and all that stuff. This is not an engineering trait, but just like you have to be kind of organized in order to be successful.
It's a trait that goes hand in hand with being an engineer.
I think that's true. But it's not exclusive to engineers.
Right. Oh, for sure. Definitely not exclusive. But yeah, I have noticed, it's funny, time and time again, I feel like I'm talking to more and more engineers, or hearing that it just seems to be a common profession, and really it makes sense, What do you, I guess on that note, what do you have any ideas what you're going to do next for work, or you're just going to take a break and
Yeah, I'm taking a minute. I got my camper van, and I'm gonna just travel around a bit. I have a couple friends doing some races that I'm just gonna go out and like kind of support them. Obviously not self-supported type races. Like one's doing an ultra marathon, and I'm gonna go help him out. Another one's doing a stage race. So I'm just gonna be like kind of sagwagging for him. So I'm gonna help some friends out with what they're doing, because they've helped me in the past, and then I'm gonna go see some family, and then figure it out from there. I'm not sure. I'm kind of seeing what opportunities come my way.
Love it. It's a luxury that not many people probably have in their life, but man, I can imagine it being extremely valuable. How old are you?
I am 36.
Yeah. You look younger. Maybe it's that 15 pounds that you lost.
Yeah.
I actually did see, on Instagram, I was looking at some of your pictures, and like when we hopped on, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy, he definitely lost some weight. When you see it in the face, that they lost some weight.
Yeah. And this is a week of eating ice cream, drinking beer. Yeah, totally.
Well, let's get into your personal history. Kind of leading up to, and not your whole let's stick with cycling.
Sure.
But your personal history in cycling, leading up to this race, I kind of thought that, again, looking at your Instagram, I know that you did this in 2015. Can you give us a snapshot of what your cycling history was like leading up to 2015? Because it sounded like it was a pretty quick transition.
Yeah. It was. I had done a single like kind of credit card tour with my best friend through Europe. We like brought our road bikes, and like our like Revelate seat bags with like one change of clothes, and we just kind of stayed in hotels and did that. So that was like my one like kind of longer tour. But yeah, I hadn't really, in 2015, I don't think I had even done a bike race, and I was trying to figure it out, but I think I probably slept in my bivvy like 3 or 4 times before the 2015 Tour Divide. And I was living in Boston at the time, and I saw Ride the Divide and at some point, before that, and just thought it was like the most cool thing. Like I camped a lot as a kid. Like I was in Boy Scouts, which I understand you were too.
Yeah, Eagle Scout.
Same.
I was, if I'm going to one up you, I was the second youngest in the state of Texas when I got it. I was 14 years old.
Whoa! Yeah. Congrats! That's amazing.
Well, I was motivated by my parents told me I couldn't get my driver's license so I was like, I'm not screwing around. But I did do a bicycle rodeo for my Eagle Scout project. We did it in a Walmart parking lot, and I did the whole thing. I got on the radio and promoted it. I got the fire department, the local bike shop to do like maintenance, bike safety. We had an obstacle course. It was cool, and I did that at 14. And it was like, now looking back, I'm like, it was just a foreshadowing, it was like, I figured it out at 14 and then I wasted a bunch of time, Anyway, sorry I just wanted to hit on that real quick because you're an Eagle Scout too, but yeah, definitely relate.
Cycling was definitely not on my radar at that age. Like I wasn't even into sports. Like I played baseball because I don't know, like driven by like my mom's side of the family is super into baseball, and I just sucked at baseball. Like I was terrible, and I really wasn't into sports. And then like I got into just kind of fell into swimming in high school, and that's when I discovered that like hand-eye coordination wasn't my forte, but the ability, like the physical ability, was there. And so yeah, I did swimming in high school, and then I rowed a little bit in college, and that was about it. And then, but after college, this is like 2009, I got into triathlon and like Ironman triathlon. And so I was racing bikes, but like in triathlon, so it's not like bike specific.
Yeah.
And I did pretty well with that. And so I was like, okay, like I have some like endurance ability here. And then I got into like, once after watching Ride the Divide, I was like, okay, like I want to do more adventure. I want to like combine this like ability to push my body with like all this like camping and like outdoor experience that I had. And in 2015 came, and like completely no idea what I was getting into. Like I like flew to Banff, and a buddy came with me. We were both on gravel bikes. I'd never ridden a mountain bike, except for whatever like Toys R Us thing I had, and like when I was growing up, and I just completely failed. I made it to Silverthorne, and at that point, like my bike had suffered multiple failures. Rear hub blew up, like lost my derailleur cable for like 200 miles, countless flats. I mean, I was running on 40 millimeter tires, trying to run like non-tubeless tires, tubeless, and that just didn't work. And my body just, there was no training, like I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. So it was like the first time that I set a goal for myself and just completely failed. And it was just because I was so naive going into it. Yeah. And at that point,
you're training, just watching the, Inspired to Ride, and then going and doing some long rides, and you're like, hey.
Yeah, my buddy and I would just like go ride. We'd like ride in the snow, and I would commute to work. Like I lived in Boston or just outside of Boston and was commuting west to work. So I had like a 20 or 25 mile commute to work. And so I'd do that like 3 days a week, but like no intervals or anything like that. Like there was no structure to it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago, but man, in the last 6-7 years, the the sport of bike racing or bike ultra endurance racing or whatever is like really grown a lot. The information that's out there, the websites, the podcasts, and everything. And so it's actually a lot more easy now to get the information ahead of time than I imagine it even was back in 2015.
I think that's true. Although I did so little research back then that I can't really tell you definitively that that's true. But I think that's true. It felt easier to put it together this time.
I didn't find out about, my path to bike packing was almost identical to yours. Grew up in, Boy Scouts, the outdoors, was a cyclist, watched Inspired to Ride in 2017 and, it was like lights on, So yeah, in 2015, I wasn't even aware of bike packing and can't really speak to it. So yeah, what was the ultimate nail in your coffin for 2015? What was your ultimate demise?
So many things went wrong. It's hard to pinpoint. And with that said, certainly there was more things went wrong than should have because I didn't do enough work in preparation for it. But things always go wrong. And so the demise came from not having the mindset of failure is not an option. And that was not the case this time. Failure was not an option. And I was going to figure out a way to finish. Even if I had to take a couple days off for whatever reason, bike, body, I was going to finish because it was that important to me. And I think that's what you have to do. I think for something this long, something's going to happen. You're going to have bad days at least. And so I think you just got to, I was having a conversation with some guys in the shuttle from the Whitefish bike retreat up to the start. And I was the only one. There were like 6 of us, I think, in the van, and 6 or 7 of us. And I was the only one that had attempted it before. And I said to him, I was like, I want to race. That's important to me. Like, I wasn't doing this as a tour. Like, I really wanted to push myself, and the race environment allowed it gives you a little extra motivation to push yourself farther than you otherwise would. But I said, if racing is no longer an option, or if I'm not doing as well as I want to be doing, finishing is the number one priority. And that was the mindset this time.
That's great to know. Actually, it's a perfect segue into where I wanted to lead. I want to skip ahead because, like I said, I've been really eager to get your side of this year's Tour Divide for a while now. So let's jump ahead to this year's, because I even for people listening, I even bumped up our interview by 30 minutes because I was like getting ready for it. And I'm like, I can't wait any longer. I want to know what happened. So let's start there. What was I guess you kind of told, but I guess you kind of talked a little bit about your strategy going into it, but I can't imagine that you pictured yourself being at the front of the race for that long. And so I guess, the question here is what was your anticipation, or what was your goals going into it? And then how did it change as the race evolved, or did it change? Did you just stick to your plan and that was it,
Okay. So going into it, I knew I was pretty strong. Like, I had won a couple races, shorter races. And I knew I was like living in Boulder, like it gives you a pretty good gauge of like where you are fitness wise. Cause there's a lot of like really talented people here, professional cyclists, whatever.
For sure.
By no means am I professional cyclist level, but I knew that I was pretty strong. So like I had a pretty good expectation of like being near the front, but I had no idea. Like, I never thought that I would be at the front for the first half. Like, it was crazy. And I wasn't trying to be. In fact, I didn't even want to be. I just went into it with like the plan of like how much I was going to like try to sleep at night. And then the rest of the hours of the day were devoted to cycling. And so hours on the bike, and just trying to like keep my effort relatively low and just keep the pedals turning. And that's what I did. And for the most part, the whole time, I just kept doing what I planned to do. And that ended up putting me at the front for the first half, which is like a huge, like, so I worked with Kurt Refsnyder as my coach for the past year and a half or so.
Wow.
And yeah, he put me in a really good position physically to be able to do that.
We're going to talk more about, I do want to talk more about coaching later, by the way. We'll come back to it.
Okay, cool. And then like Jay caught up to me. He put in some big days, and I think found out later that like he was cutting sleep to kind of keep me within relatively close range. And then he ended up catching up to me just outside of Rollins before the Colorado border. And once that happened, it was like, okay, like him and I were riding together. We were riding to Bush Mountain Lodge together. And like, I knew he was close the whole time. Like I was checking the tracker.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought he would just be gone. And we were both, I think, just doing our own. I mean, maybe Jay was like being more strategic than I give him credit for, but like, I think we were just kind of doing our own thing. And then it just ended up being that like, we were on kind of different sleep schedules and like maybe riding different paces, like slightly, but we just kept leapfrogging, like without really intending to like keep taking the lead from each other. Like it was nuts. I kept seeing him. It was so funny because I got kind of tired of thinking about Jay. Just like, can you just go so I can do my own thing?
Yeah, I could totally see that, man. I could see it being. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I want to hear more. Like, was it frustrating? Was it distracting? Was it comforting to know that he was there? I mean, what was that like to be so close to him all the time?
It was just like I said, like I kind of went out there, sort of planning, expecting to be doing my own thing, like true, like individual time trial within the Grand Depart. And it didn't end up being like that. Cause like I would see Jay like every other day, you know, he'd catch up to me in the morning or whatever. And he's like, good morning. And I'm like, oh, hey Jay, what's up?
What kind of, were y'all talking much together? Were you riding much together? Was it friendly?
Oh yeah, so friendly.
I'm sure it was, but
yeah. We rode together. From what I remember, like we rode together, like kind of like 2 different days, almost like the whole day. Like he'd get ahead of me, I'd get ahead of him, whatever.
Yeah.
But we rode together into Colorado, and like almost all the way to Steamboat for the most part that day. We rode together and talked, and then again, we rode together from like just outside of Grants all the way to Pietown. And we ended up having like, it was his birthday that day. So we had like birthday pie and ice cream together in Pietown. And that was pretty cool.
Did y'all plan that, or did it just happen that way?
Oh, no. It just happened.
Yeah. I wonder, I think, did he get there first and then he waited for you?
In Pietown?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like he pulled up to he like, maybe he got there 5 minutes before me, but we were together.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard to tell with Dot Watcher because, it can lag and then speed up, and so it's like, I almost made a joke on Instagram. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, are these guys drafting off each other? And I really don't, I know y'all weren't, but I was like, I mean, it was just that close. The dots are just like on top of each other. And it's just never seen that before, ever.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like there was like, I looked at the tracker one day. It was the day from like Steamboat. I think we both slept on whatever pass that was just before like Lynx Pass. I think it is somewhere, separate places, whatever. Like, and then we ended like, we were like 15 minutes apart from each other that like entire day, but it looked like the dots were right on top of each other. So it looked like we were riding together, but like I didn't see him until like Breckenridge. Like it was kind of funny. Like I was like, I bet people thought we were riding together, but we like didn't see each other at all.
Yeah. And I know that, so that's why, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, what you're seeing. I mean, it's pretty accurate, but goodness gracious, it's even amazing. We even have that technology to follow along. So that's what I was curious is like, how much were y'all actually, I mean, I know y'all were leapfrogging, so I know there was some interaction there, but it was hard to tell if y'all were riding together a lot or if you just, you were a few miles apart and you could kind of see each other and yeah. Just a couple days we ended up riding together and chatting, getting to know each other. So that was pretty cool. So how you said you were like real familiar with where he was and where you are in relation to him. How much of that impacted your ability to be in your own race, and how much did it impact, if at all, your strategy of the race?
It didn't impact my plan so much until the very end, until like Cuba and Grants. Prior to that, I was just kind of still doing my own thing. Like it was, to me, it was too early to try to make any moves. I think Jay probably felt the same way. I don't want to speak for him and what his strategy was, but when I was riding, I suspected that he was like keeping me close, either in front of him or behind him, like keeping me close on purpose, just so he could keep an eye on me. And I was not doing that. I was just trying to like sleep enough to recover and just keep moving as much as possible.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because that was a lot of the speculation that, we were having, the dot watchers, as we're watching the race. And that's, a lot of, I'll tell you, I got a lot of messages that went on something like this. Jay's the veteran. He's just keeping them close, taking it easy, whatever. And then when he's ready, he's going to make his move. And what I said every time was like, maybe, but how well do you know Brendan? I know I've never met you. I didn't know what you were capable of. And for all I knew, Jay was out there, trying to get away from you, and you were toying with him, and so I didn't know. And I guess, I'm curious to get your thought, but how much of, I know obviously yours wasn't strategy now, but do you have a question mark about how much he was just being strategic?
Yeah. I'm actually going to go see him next week. I got to go get my van in Montana, and I'm going to stop in at his house in Idaho on the way down back to Colorado. And I'm definitely going to ask him, because I don't think he would have told me during the race, but maybe he will now. So it'll be curious to hear like how much what's going on there.
That was probably the biggest curiosity I had, was just, is one of these guys gaming the other one? Or are they both just in sync, and this is, they're just on the same kind of rhythm. I guess we'll have to talk to Jay and get his side. But I knew there's no way, especially like sitting in Pietown, that either one of y'all were, I think, talking strategy, especially not if you're thinking about making a move or anything like that.
No, we weren't. We were just, enjoying each other's company at that point, and enjoying his birthday. And it was just so cool.
Yeah.
At that point in Pietown, I had tried to make my move the night before. It did not work.
Tell me about it.
So it started in Cuba, and this year with the classic route, we took the main route from Cuba to Grants, and that involved the Tour Divide route essentially uses the paved alternate between Cuba and Grants as the de facto route. It's faster, but it's all pavement. So for the classic route, the plan was to take the main route. And I don't know the exact reasons why paved is the de facto for Tour Divide, but I can speculate that when you enter that main route section between Cuba and Grants, you see all these signs on the road that are like, road is impassable during inclement weather. And by no means are those the only places on the route, Tour Divide or otherwise, where that's the case. But these are supposedly really bad. And there's these kind of arroyos. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but essentially these drainages that I think if it rains really hard are like essentially like rivers. Flash flood rivers that like only flow when it rains. But so I guess it can be dangerous, and it's pretty remote out there. And so anyway, I went into this, and Jay was about an hour ahead of me. It started to sprinkle, and you could see like pouring rain, like 360-degree view around you and around me. And it started to sprinkle, and like the death mud started building on the tires. And I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed. And so I just start like hammering. And part of that was like, I just need to get out of this, not knowing like how much longer that section was going to last, like how much longer the kind of death mud arroyo section was going to last. Part of it was just to get out of it. And then part of it was just like, I need to catch up to Jay so I'm not alone. I do not want to be alone out here. And I put myself in a little bit of a hole trying to do that.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I had kind of made the decision that I was going to try to make a move on Jay that night and try to go all night without sleep. And this was, I think, Wednesday night. So 12 days into the race. Yeah, 12 or 13 days. And try to put some distance between us. And when I got to Grants, it was like 2 a.m. I checked the tracker, and Jay had slept up on the pass. And I was like, okay, like I have like 30, 40 miles on him now. Great. But he's been sleeping the past few hours, and I cannot keep going. Like at that point, like I was falling asleep at the wheel. And so I was like, all right, I need to get some sleep. So I got past town, and I slept like 2 hours and got up, started riding. And then Jay like probably checked the tracker when he got into town and caught up to me that morning. And that's the day we rode to Pietown together. And
yeah, I saw that. I was wondering if that was a move on your part. But yeah, he in dot watching time, he reeled you in pretty quick. You know, it was like, I thought I was like, okay, all right, this is it. And then next thing I know, y'all are eating pie in Pietown.
yeah. It was funny because like I had to work to keep up with him that day. It was his birthday, and he was like riding real strong. And I was like, man, like he has. I don't know if it's just today, but like he is moving faster than me. And I knew it wasn't sustainable for me. We had food together, and that was awesome. And shortly after Pietown, like I had been. Yes.
We have to talk about Pietown. We have to spend some time on it because it was like the number one question I got from people. I mean, you can't. This thing like unfolded like a movie almost, you know. I mean, a 2,500 mile, and then on Jay's birthday, both these guys who over the last 1,500 whatever miles, neck and neck, crossing each other, sit down and eat pie at the iconic Pietown. I mean, you just can't make this shit up. It's really cool, actually. And the number one question is, what pie did y'all eat?
I want to say, I mean, we ate multiple pies and took multiple pies to go. But I want to say we ate some like apple type pie with ice cream for his birthday, and they provide like a birthday pie on the house. So that was the pie we like
didn't even care. Like for us, we're like, oh, they're eating pie. And you're like, I don't even care. I'm hungry.
I mean, it was awesome. It was so good. I got like a hummus platter. It was like so good to eat vegetables, and a burrito, and then like we each got like 2 or 3 sandwiches to go. And
that makes so much sense. Like you're probably fatigued on like junk food, and you're like more excited about the real hearty food.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the conversation like? Were y'all both feeling kind of fresh? Were you both sitting there like zombies? Like what was it like?
No, I don't think either one of us was a zombie. We were just. It was kind of like mid-afternoon, so kind of in the middle of the riding day.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, I had worked to keep up with him that day, but I was feeling okay. And the conversation, I mean, like we talked a little bit about like the section coming up, and I'm like, didn't really know what it was like. And so I was kind of trying to get some information from Jay, and he's like, It's a kind of a bear, not giving me much. But I think like it's a little hazy now, but like, I think we were just kind of shooting the shit and like, kind of talking about some stuff that wasn't related to cycling. I mean, like, we're talking about like the finish and like how we're getting picked up and all that kind of thing. Just like random, like friendly conversation. It was nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's a veteran, and so how many times has he sat there and ate pie in Pietown? And, those are probably the things that he's thinking about, probably, after you do it a while, you probably kind of know what to expect from your body, I would think, and kind of maybe know what you're capable of, know what the route is like, all that stuff. So I could see him being pretty comfortable, in that environment. So do you remember being in a Dollar General with him at the same time?
Yeah.
That's when one of my listeners or followers or whatever, I don't remember who it was, but someone was like, I was posting, about, y'all being neck and neck or whatever. And like, oh, I just ran into them. They were both at Dollar General when I was there. And I don't know if he talked. I know he mentioned that he didn't really want to bother you. I mean, y'all were both like racing, but, his live report was, both of y'all looked pretty fresh. And you were both definitely in the race mode. It wasn't, because that's the question. Are these just two friends that are just like hanging out and riding bikes together, or what's going on there? So do you remember that being in that?
Yeah. I think we were on like separate sides of the building, kind of like getting our stuff together. So it kind of looked like we were separate. We had ridden together like a little bit, that like just from like, I don't know, the past 10 miles or something. Like we stopped in like El Rito at a convenience store, and then we got to the Dollar General. Like I got there like a couple minutes before him. Yeah, I remember meeting that person. He had his two kids with him on like a cargo bike, and
cool.
Forget his name, but
cool. Shout out to that guy. Live race reports. It's just fun, man. It's like, oh, I just ran into him. It's crazy. Small world.
Yeah, it's so funny being out there and like people knowing. I'm sure Jay is so used to this, but I am not, like people knowing who you are as you roll up, because they're like watching track leaders, and it's like, are you Brendan? It's like, yeah. Okay, cool.
I don't know through racing, but through the podcast, I mean, I just put it out there. And so there's a lot of people that hear me talk a lot, and they probably have some pretty good familiarity with me and know what I look like. But I mean, I go place all the time, and I don't know them, and it's always a weird dynamic,
Yeah. Yes.
Do you like that part of it?
For the most part, yeah. Like most of the people that are like coming up to you, like they just want to like say like, like, congratulations, you're doing so great. Like they're super supportive and want to like just say like, I know you're, they'll say something like, I know you're racing. I just want to say like, hey, like you're doing great. Like we've been watching you, like keep it up.
Yeah.
And like, that's so awesome. And like some people want to get a picture or whatever. And like, I'm so cool with that. Like, that's so awesome. Especially like I met so many touring cyclists like coming north. And
oh yeah,
like, I would stop and talk to most of them. Cause like one, I was like, envious. So I was like, oh, it's so cool that you have the time to like go into these towns and chill and like have campfires and all this stuff.
Campfire.
But also like, man, like tour, like I love, like racing's cool, but like I love touring on my bike. Like it is the most amazing way to travel. People are so kind and like want to help you, and they want to hear your story, and you get to see things at a much slower pace than if you were like in a car. Like if you're in a car, like you kind of see the highlights and then you get to a town. Like in the bike, like the highlight is like, it's like, the journey is more important than the destination kind of thing. So anyway, I really enjoyed meeting those people that were touring. Like It was just so cool.
It's always, I've only done one race myself, but all those like little interactions were a nice boost for me, a nice emotional boost. And when, people are like watching your dot and rooting for you, even though they don't know who you are, it's pretty cool. It's like, wow, okay, people are watching.
Yeah. We go into these things, or like, I'm speaking for myself, like I go into these things like for myself. Like it's a pretty selfish endeavor. It takes a lot of time away from people in your life, like the training, and like, like I have a unique flexibility right now, and I don't have kids, or, I'm not married. So it's a little different, but like a lot of people do these things, and it takes time away from the people that are important in their lives. And so it is kind of a selfish endeavor. But what I've found is that by doing these things, I don't want, like, it doesn't matter if you're fast or not, just doing this stuff and going out and like doing what you love, like it inspires people. And so it ends up like having this surprising like side benefit to other people, that like they see someone pursuing what they love, mm-hmm. and that will hopefully get them to do what they love. And man, like the more people in the world that are doing what they love, the better this world's going to be,
Yeah, I'd like to take issue. I mean, I think that you can use the word selfish, but pursuing the things in life that make you happy, that, bring you mental and physical health or whatever it may be. But and it doesn't have to be cycling, but pursuing the things in life that bring you happiness. We talked about on the Bobby Wintle episode. I mean, you really do need to be able to take care of yourself, prioritize yourself, and you're just in a much better disposition and position in general in life to be able to like give to others and be an inspiration to others or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, there's always sacrifices, but you do kind of have to, I think at some point, at some level, make sure that, you're taking care of yourself. And I don't know, man, so many people are just like stuck in a cog, I feel like, and it's like, what are you pursuing? What is the thing that brings you a lot of joy? And I don't know if a lot of people have that, and so I don't think that's the right way, I don't know what the balance is, but yeah.
I think you're probably right. I think, maybe my view is a little bit too narrow there. And like, if you do look at it, like over, like kind of zoomed in, there's this view that it's selfish. And I know I said that, but you're probably right that it's a net positive to kind of pursue what makes you happy. Cause a happier person is going to someone who has experienced fortune in their life, like they're going to help other people.
And you want to share it. Like, you find out about bike packing and you want to come on a podcast and tell people about it because it was a great experience. People are going to listen. They're like, dude, if Brendan can do it, I can do it, and that's what I found with the podcast part of my format for my show. It's not that formatted, but I like to talk to like Lael Wilcox and Sophion and, these big names that everybody knows and stuff. But I also, it's super important to me that I talk to the Brendan Heinig, because what that does is I think it speaks to a greater audience. I don't know the numbers, but 99% of the cyclists out there are just regular cyclists who have jobs and families and whatever it might be. And, maybe they can't train all the time and be a sponsored athlete like Lael Wilcox. And so those are super inspirational people. But then when you throw on, some underdogs that are also lining up and competing and stuff, I think that is a great way to showcase and inspire other people that they can do it too. You know what I'm saying? It kind of fills in that gap from ultra endurance pro athlete to, somebody that has a job and works really hard and just made this a focus can go out there and do it too.
100%. Yeah.
Let's finish off your 2021 Tour Divide. So we left off in Pietown. And that was really, that kind of was like maybe the beginning of the end. It sounds like it started a little bit earlier from you after the Grant push. You kind of went into the well a little bit, but either Jay ate some special pie in Pietown or something, but take us through the end of the race.
So after Pietown, I had been thinking about it, and up until that point, like I said earlier, like I didn't expect to be at the front. I didn't expect to be racing Jay, obviously. And, this race, this route, this ride, like was super important to me. Like after failing in 2015 and like so much life happening between then and now, it was really just like meant to be this like kind of reset and this like accomplishing a long-term goal and like this kind of, not to get too wooey, but like kind of like a spiritual experience. And it didn't end up being that way, which was like, I'm so grateful for the way it turned out, but it wasn't what I expected. And so at that point, knowing Jay was riding a little hard, like little stronger and not having the experience that I wanted for myself, I kind of just made the decision that like, I'm going to let him do his thing and stop trying to race him. And I'm going to do my thing. And, he cycled on, and I got the last 2 days to just kind of have that experience that I wanted, to just be in my own head and like experiencing the last parts of the route the way that I thought the whole route was going to go, and just enjoying the last couple of days being out there and thinking about the last few years and like what's next and all this stuff. And I'm like just so happy that I made that decision. I knew it meant like I wasn't going to win, but that was never the goal in the first place. like I didn't go into this expecting to be there and to have that opportunity.
It almost sounds like you went in with some expectations and you became, and fill in the blanks, but distracted by potentially winning and distracted by being at the front of the race.
Yeah, for sure. And so I got to race like one of the best. And I also got the experience that I wanted for myself. And this has just been like a huge win across the board. Like finally completing something that I set out to do 6 years ago is like pretty huge for me.
Why does it bother you so much that you didn't finish 6 years ago when you went into it underprepared, not as well informed, all these things? Like if I did, I would have been like, man, I didn't know what I was doing, and I don't think it'd bother me that much. But it's like it's stuck with you.
I can't fully explain that.
Okay.
At the time, like I knew that I was moving to Boulder, Colorado that fall. Like I had already made that decision. And so I knew there were other things like to distract me. So it wasn't like the day I quit, I was like, I'm coming back. It wasn't, but it kind of grew over the next couple of years. It was like, okay, like this is something I need to complete because I don't like leaving things undone. Yeah, it's hard to explain. And I'm not really sure.
No, it's okay. You don't have to be sure. And you're still fresh off of it and you got a lot of time it's a big experience. We talk to people all the time and you try to wrap up a journey that for you has taken 6 years. You try to wrap it up in an hour podcast, and it'd probably take a while to like digest it all and probably like make it all make sense, but it obviously was just something that you wanted to do. And it's not uncommon in our sector of the world. The Tour Divide is it's like a monument to your own achievement, and then like, and like you said, a spiritual experience. People ride it for all kinds of reasons, a million kinds of reasons could you have to go in and ride, the Tour Divide route, but nobody walks away and it's like, whatever. Maybe Jay after doing it a bunch of times, but I've never done it. I got 2 kids and it's going to be a little while before I can find a 2-week window to, take off and go and do it. But it's a bucket list item, even though I've never done it, even though I've never done it and failed or whatever, I still I want to do it,
Yeah.
I want to check that off my bucket. And maybe it's just, I want to be a part of that club,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know all the things that we're talking about, not just because I Googled it or I've talked to other people, but I want to go and ride it and, have my own experiences with it. And yeah, it sounds like that's kind of what, as I'm talking, it kind of sounds like that's what you were maybe looking for too, is just having your own experience. And it didn't sound like you were too like concerned too much with what other people were doing. You trained, you had a plan, and you were just kind of doing your thing.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was going to ask you like how you feel. And originally my question was like, are you bummed that you came in second? But I think the answer is clearly no, you're not bummed that you came in second. So what did you take away from this race, and how do you feel now that you've completed it?
Yeah. It took a few days to kind of let it set in. Like I was hurting so many, like the first couple of days, like after I was like just in like a really like tough spot physically. So it felt like I didn't have, even till like a couple of days ago, like I didn't feel like the sense of like relief that I thought I was going to. It was kind of weird. Like I thought I would finish and just be like, yes, it's over. I did it. Woohoo. Like that didn't really happen. Like it was just like, whoa, like I can't believe it wasn't like a huge sense of relief in the way I thought it was going to be, but it's settled in a little bit more now. I feel proud of myself for putting in the work to make it happen. I made a post a couple days ago, I think, but there's I don't know who to attribute this to, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was like people overestimate what they can do in a short amount of time. Like people overestimate what they can do in a week. You almost never complete everything you set out to do over the next week, but people severely underestimate what they can accomplish over longer periods of time, year, few years, 6 years in my case, right? For Tour Divide. And that is so true for this for me. Like I said, I mean, I just had no idea I was able to do what I did. And that is awesome. It's like, wow, like you put work into something, you focus on something, like you're going to get there. The second thing, like, it's somewhat related, and it's something that was introduced to me as a child, and something that I've been trying to kind of incorporate into my life more, is like, you don't have to be fast, and you don't have to be good at something necessarily. You just have to keep working at it. Like, you just have to keep moving, and you'll eventually get there. You know, like it takes time, and just don't sit on your ass. Like just keep moving, and shit will happen for you.
I couldn't agree more, man. And it is hard to, man, especially nowadays, to have some like broader perspective to life and to like what you're trying to accomplish, right? Everybody wants things now, you know, and I want to put in the work now, and I want to get the results. And yeah, that's not really the way life works. I mean, as a 41-year-old, you know, it takes, I mean, life, a pursuit like this, whatever it is, I mean, it's like just slowly chipping away at it, you know, unless you're a crit racer. Yeah, but we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of what I really enjoy about these endeavors that we take on, is how you can carry that into other segments of your life. Like knowing that you can work that hard and fucking ride your bike from border to border across the Continental Divide in inclement weather, carry everything you need, solo self-supported, nobody's showing up and handing you anything to, you know, or wiping your butt for you at night or whatever. I mean, you know, there's an immense self-confidence that comes from knowing that you are capable of training, putting in the work, and then going out and actually like accomplishing what you set out to do. And if you zoom out, I mean, you can apply that to anything. And if you can do that, you know, now it's just a matter of, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you got some time. It's like, okay, if I could do that, what do I want to accomplish in life? Like, what do I want to point my energy at? And what do I want to do?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. My friend, like jokingly asked, you know, like she knew the answer to this, but like she was like, "Oh, do you get a trophy at the end of Tour Divide?" Like, no. But, you know, for the benefit of whoever was watching, like the Instagram Q&A I did, it was like, you know, you do something like this and it just makes everything else just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I love what you said. Like, once you do something like this, where you like put a ton of energy into it and you have like success, and whatever success means to you, like you have success and you kind of accomplish your goals. Like, it's like, well, shoot, like all I have to do is decide what I want to do. And then it's just really simple. You put energy into that thing and you'll eventually get there. Like, that's so cool. That's like such a
mind expanding.
Yeah. Like the world is your oyster, whatever. Like it's a cool perspective. It's pretty powerful.
Well, these, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps, man, but these are the things that inspire people, because it's not that you're a world-class super athlete with, you know, I don't know, like some crazy athletic ability or anything like that. And maybe you do have some nice fitness about you, but I mean, there wasn't a secret to success other than working hard and having a plan and then executing your plan that you worked really hard for, you know. It's not complicated, but it takes work, it takes energy, and it is hard, but it is not impossible, you know.
Right.
Yeah, man, you can, I mean, that's the thing, man. That's why this stuff is so cool, and why it goes beyond just bike racing and no one, I don't really care if you won or you didn't win. I wanted to talk to you anyway. You know, it's like, I didn't really care. It's not about that, because there's so much more that, really captivates this whole community, I think. And it's more of like a life. Actually, I'm stealing this from Rebecca Rush. She called it's more of a life teacher. You know, it really teaches you about life, teaches you about yourself, what you're capable of. And if you look at it through that prism, it is truly profound. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
You want to, since we've, pontificated wisely on that, do you want to talk a little bit about the coaching aspect? I did want to talk about that a little bit. Kurt Refsnyder, who's been a guest on the podcast, we're going to have him on again, hopefully here before too long. But a lot of people are aware of Kurt, and I've talked to him about his coaching. But I kind of, as one of his students or whatever you call it, what led you up to hiring a coach? Why did you pick Kurt? And maybe talk to, a little bit about what it's like to even have a bike pack training coach, A lot of people don't have one,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hired Kurt because I hired a coach because this was important to me, and I wanted to make sure that I was physically prepared.
And specifically for the Tour Divide?
Yep, specifically for the Tour Divide. I started working with him in late 2019, prior to COVID, because I thought 2020 was going to happen, and that didn't happen. And then took a break, after it was okay, 2020 Tour Divide isn't going to happen. Took a break and just rode my bike from June through November last year, and then started working with him again in December through this year's Tour Divide. I specifically worked with Kurt, one, because I had a friend who worked with him and spoke very highly of his coaching style. And two, just the guy is one of the most accomplished athletes in this realm. I mean, he's won Tour Divide, Arizona Trail Race, Colorado Trail Race. He's just a beast, and he has a depth of knowledge similar to Jay, right? So just have that knowledge on tap was huge. And I knew that he had success, so I knew that he knew how to train for these types of events.
Yeah.
Most coaches obviously aren't coaching for this kind of length of event.
Yeah, that's another good point. There aren't even that many coaches that coach this type of stuff. So
right, exactly. So he was kind of a sure bet for this specifically.
Yeah. So, that does answer one of my questions. If he was hired specifically for Tour Divide training. So can you break down just a little bit? What's that process like? What does training look like for an event like this?
I wasn't sure going into it, a year and a half ago when I started working. I was like, so we're gonna do a lot of long days or whatever. And actually, no. I think my volume picked up this year because I went part-time with work, earlier in the year. And so I had more time. But last year when I was still working full time, I was only doing 15 hours a week on the bike. So not huge amounts. A day on the Divide is longer than that.
Yeah.
But a lot of intervals. I'm fortunate to live in Boulder where a huge climb is a 5-minute warm up right away. So I spent a lot of time just going up, then down, up, then down, up, then down. And a lot of focus on sweet spot, zone 3, zone 4 kind of stuff, some FTP work, some cadence work. And then on the weekends when there's kind of more time in the day, doing mid zone 2, longer rides, 5-6 hours plus. So I think I worked my volume up to low 20 hour, up to 30 hour weeks, just kind of leading up to in the last month before the Divide. But really most of the focus over a 6-month training was just on getting me stronger. Not necessarily building in the endurance, because you gain endurance just from living your life, endurance doesn't come just from cycling. If you're awake and you're moving, you're building endurance. But so a lot of the focus is just on getting stronger, building FTP.
Any weight training?
Kurt never, there were, once in a while he would prescribe some strength work. But I was doing a little bit on my own, just like really short. Like I would like 10 or 15 minutes while I'm making coffee in the morning, just do like a little bit of like band work or like calf raises or push-ups or pull-ups or whatever, but like nothing too much. I think maybe, I'm not speaking for Kurt here, because I don't know, but like maybe in like a shorter event that's like a little bit more abusive, like Colorado Trail, like a single track focused event, you might do a little bit more like upper body work. But for Tour Divide, I wasn't doing much strength training.
What about, I've never thought about this before, but since you depleted so much of your own body weight, is there any strategy or talk about bulking up or, nutrition leading up to the divide so that you have like a high caloric density or something? And then you can, I don't know, any strategy there?
Nothing that Kurt and I talked about. I'd be curious to talk to him about that. We haven't gotten on the phone yet post divide. We've texted, but haven't talked on the phone.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to get his feedback on how much you depleted and actually like look at what you ate and all that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to have that conversation with him because I feel like maybe I lost more than I should have.
Yeah, you have to wonder if that was part of why you ran out of steam at the end. I mean, plus you'd already ridden a bunch. So I'm not a coach, but yeah, I mean, you do have to wonder. I mean, if your body doesn't have the nutrients it needs, it's not going to be able to perform the way you're going to want it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what happened with my body. If I wasn't, because I was counting calories, so I knew how much I was putting in, and I think it was the right amount for riding, and it kind of just felt like I wasn't getting utilized correctly or something, or maybe that's just the way it goes. I mean, this is the longest event I've done, so maybe that's just par for the course.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe like I said, I've never done it, so I'm just curious, and I'll circle back around with me once you talk to Kurt, and just text me and let me know. I'll be curious. But so it sounds like Kurt prepared you really well. I mean, you mentioned it earlier that he like really prepared you well for this event, which isn't surprising. I'm curious, do you, and it's a little bit earlier, but do you think you'll do it again? And if you do, what did you learn, and what do you think that you'll do differently going in if you did it? And whether it's this race or a different similar style race.
I don't know if I'll do it again. It's a little fresh. It'll certainly be like a couple years, probably. Like, I don't think I'd do it again next year, but maybe the year after, possibly. I'd like to just try some other stuff and some shorter races. I think it'd be like I got a full suspension bike for the first time in my life. So I'm pretty stoked on that. So maybe like Arizona Trail Race or Colorado Trail Race. Like, I feel like that'd just be super fun. And probably a little less wear on the body just because they're shorter.
And he'll be a great coach for those too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Maybe just try some different stuff. And we'll see about Tour Divide in the future.
Well, so what did you learn? I mean, regardless of whether or not you may do it again in the future, I mean, looking at it now, I mean, is there anything that you wish you had done or wish you didn't take or would have done differently?
I'd like to work more on the nutrition aspect and kind of figure out what works for me a little bit better. I think I was eating like probably a little too much like sugary pastries in the first week, and that might have put me in like a bad spot for the second week. I'm not sure, but I'd like to like kind of dial that in a little bit better. It's a little harder to train for, but like, certainly Jay had the ability to ride through like the last night, and there was no way I was doing that. Like no amount of caffeine was keeping me up at that point. And so I don't know, maybe I just don't have that in me, but it'd be cool to figure that out, because if you look at like the top people versus like the middle of the pack, like the riding speeds are not that much different. I mean, we're right around 10 miles an hour, moving speed. What it comes down to is time on the bike. So if you can cut sleep just a little bit and like cut down your time, like at resupply just a little bit, like just be a little bit more efficient. I mean, that's what wins the race,
Which brings me back to your bivvies and your two chamois. And that was the question I was ping ponging back in my mind. It's all, I mean, if you're racing, it's time on the bike. Everybody kind of knows that, because again, the speed is going to be pretty much the speed over a long distance like that. And so I did find it interesting that you prioritized and took the time to wash and clean. And I guess it doesn't take that much time, but man, it all adds up.
It adds up, but that pays off. Right? Because like if you have saddle sores, like you are not going to want to be on the bike 17 hours a day. It's just like, that is really hard.
I wouldn't want to do it, but I've definitely talked to people who have, and I'm just like, doesn't sound fun. It sounds like I would want to, I don't even know what I would do. I don't want to say what I would do because I've never been in that position, but it doesn't sound fun.
No.
So I'm curious to hear what's next for you. I've kind of learned that, you wanted to push yourself, but maybe you were also looking to have like an experience out there. And so you weren't 100% racy. I'm curious, like what's next for you, both in terms of, any races that might be interesting that you might be looking at, but also like your own personal approach to cycling. Are you wanting to like improve and be like this ultra endurance cyclist, or, what does that path look like for you?
I'm not sure right now, like how far I want to take this. I think I'm going to get through recovery, and once I start riding again, I think it'll just kind of come to me like, okay, what direction do I want to go? For right now, like I don't have any races planned. I specifically didn't plan anything after Tour Divide because I just really didn't know how I was going to feel. And I'm glad I made that decision. But for right now, I just want to enjoy riding my bike, take some friends on some overnighters around Boulder. Adventure Cycling Association has the Idaho Hot Springs route, and I have some friends going up to do some of the rides for RPI, Rebecca's Private Idaho event in September. So I'm trying to organize like some bike packing, just like touring on the Hot Springs route. So for now, just like enjoying riding my bike and doing some overnighters with friends, and then kind of see what happens, see what motivates me.
I feel like you and I have we're definitely, I'm not an engineer, but in terms of our approach to cycling, you were talking earlier about how much you love bike touring and just like experiencing the world on a bike. And, that's why I personally haven't done a lot of racing. I get, I watch the races and I talk to racers and I get super hyped. But I haven't got hyped enough to like want to push myself through. I've done one race. I did a 500-mile race here in Texas, and that's, the hardest I've personally pushed myself. But I just enjoy the campfires and the bourbon at night and talking to my friends and just, seeing this stuff. And like, if there's a river you want to stop and, go fishing or whatever, all those things,
Absolutely. It's just, if there's one passion I know I'm going to have for the rest of my life, it is bike touring. It's just, there's no question, because every time I do it, it is a positive experience. Even when it's hard, even when like I have a shitty day, I look back and I'm like, that was hilarious. Oh my God, I can't believe, whatever, like shit broke on my bike. Like that day sucked so bad, but you always look back on those things and think that was cool. Like, I'm glad that happened.
Oh, for sure. They're lifetime experiences, man. It's like I still remember all my camping trips from like a Boy Scout,
Yeah.
They never leave you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's cool, man. It sounds like you love cycling, you love the outdoors, like a lot of us do. And every once in a while, it sounds like you had this big chip on. No, I don't know how big. I don't want to overinflate it, but you had this kind of monkey on your back with the Tour Divide, and you checked that one off your box, and now you can kind of just relax and see what's next. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Hey, it's all good. No matter what you do, it's all good stuff. So, well, anything else we didn't cover you wanted to talk about?
No, I just, thanks for being interested in talking to me. It's been awesome talking to you, and I'm excited that I have this opportunity to kind of share my story. Like, I hope that people get value in it, and if they want to reach out to me, I'm not so inundated with messages at this point that I'm overwhelmed yet. So if anyone wants to ask me a specific question, they can find me on Instagram or whatever.
I love that. Yeah, mention what your Instagram was, because like I said, it was harder for me to find, even though I already followed you.
yeah, it's Brendan Steady Slow, and there's an underscore between the words. So Brendan _steady_slow.
Yeah, I read your Instagram handle. Obviously, I knew what it was, but I didn't make the connection between your Instagram handle and this kind of slow and steady approach that you were talking about. To it's like one bite of the elephant at a time. Don't try to eat the whole thing. It's just like you got to plan, and so that's kind of like your ethos, that you really follow that.
Yep, it's a work in progress, but it's a little bit of a guiding star, just steady and slow.
When you say work in progress, do you mean like trying to like slow life down? I mean, life moves fast, and just like trying to slow it down, or what do you mean?
What I mean is, I sometimes struggle to adhere to that ethos, because when I like get an idea in my mind that or a goal, I'm like, I want to go 100%. Like as fast as possible. I want to get there as fast as possible. And sometimes I burn myself out. So.
Well, I mean, if we're going to use Tour Divide as an example, it's 6 years difference. There's a lot you can learn, but I mean, you can go in to something with not very much experience, not a lot of training, and you'll have a type of experience, or you could plan and put in the work and everything, and you're going to have a much different experience. So, you got it right this time.
Yeah, it took a while, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think it's cool. I think, hopefully people will reach out to you if they have questions or anything like that. I mean, that's one of the great things about the community, is that everyone's just cool and eager to help get people outdoors, riding bikes, and, finding their own happiness or their own limits or whatever it is that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. Thank you, man. Thank you seriously for coming on the show. Like I was literally nervous because not everybody wants to be on a podcast, I mean, not everybody, some people just don't even want to, they're just like, I'm just doing my thing, whatever it may be. And so the whole time you were racing, I was like, man, I really hope, he'll talk to me. Again, I'm a big fan of like the underdog. I love to share those stories, and, nothing against Jay. I'm huge shout out to him on his accomplishment. He's a legend.
Absolutely.
But I always root for the underdog. So I wasn't rooting against Jay, but I was on Team Brendan for sure. And, and I, it wasn't, for me, I didn't really, it's like not win or lose or whatever, but now talking to you, it's just like, it's so cool that I know that you're happy with your experience. And that's the most important part. Like, I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thanks for talking to me, man. It's been a true pleasure. And I think a lot of people are going to enjoy listening to this one, because, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see this again. I don't know if we'll ever see, it was like 1,000 miles in, everybody was kind of together until like, I don't know, I think it was like Helena maybe. And then like, it seemed like it was just the Jay and Brendan show after Helena, for 1,500 miles. And I just don't think we'll ever see that again. So I think people are going to be pretty excited to kind of hear what that was like.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they find it interesting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, buddy. Well, rest up, and we'll talk to you again soon one day, I hope.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Talk to you soon.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I apologize for the audio quality there. It wasn't the best, and I have actually had a computer technical issue that kind of messed up things. I won't go into details, but rest assured I am getting that fixed so that you can enjoy the audio quality that you're accustomed to. Big shout out to Brendan. It was really great to talk to him, to catch up. I was so nervous that he wouldn't want to talk to me. For some reason, I wanted to hear his story. I was super excited to hear his story. And so whenever he agreed to an interview after his race was over, I was super honored that he would come on and share his time and his experience with us. And I'll echo what he says. I hope that his story goes on to inspire others to get out there, push their limits, and find out if they are capable. And guess what? If you come up short, you always have the opportunity to learn, to improve, and to come back and try again. All right, everybody. Well, listen, I can't emphasize enough the importance of your support as we continue on this path of producing the Bikes or Death show. I'd like to thank again the 50 new patrons that signed up since last week. If you've been inspired to support this show, if this show has brought you some entertainment or some inspiration or a chuckle along the way, maybe it's worth $1 a month to sign up, and you also get access to all those benefits that come along with being a patron. To find out more, head over to patreon.com/bikesfordeath. And I want to remind you to also head over to rockgeist.com, join their newsletter, and that way you never miss anything that they have going on. And while you got your Google open, or hopefully maybe you're using DuckDuckGo, I've been switching to that lately and I'm liking it, but maybe DuckDuckGo Ruby Coffee over at rubycoffeeroasters.com and check out all the great coffee that they have. I'm super excited about their instant and single serve options as a bike packer and outdoorsman. And remember that if you use the code BikesOrDeath, you get 15% off your order or 20% off your first shipment if you do a subscription. So thank you to all of our sponsors who make this show possible. And thank you for being here, because without you, I'm just talking to a microphone in my office, and that would be silly. I sincerely want to thank everybody. I can't say it enough. Y'all have brought me to tears. I am humbled beyond belief. To be honest, on many levels, I am still processing the outpouring. And not only am I processing the outpouring, but I am following up on lead after lead after lead. Thanks to so many friends in the industry, I've been able to get in contact with a lot of different companies that are interested in partnering with Bikes or Death. And my goal is to find partners that believe in what Bikes or Death is doing and can also provide value to you, the listener. I don't want to just partner with any company all willy-nilly. I want to make sure that these are good companies that I believe in and I believe that you can benefit from too. So if you happen to know of a company or you are a company that would like to talk about advertising or sponsoring Bikes or Death, I would love to have that conversation. Just shoot me an email. I can be easily reached at bikes@bikesfordeath.com. Drop me a line if you're interested, and I will get in touch with you ASAP. All right, everybody. Thank y'all so much for being here. Whew. We did it. We are doing it. I believe that we are going to make this happen, and I couldn't be more stoked. I absolutely love this, and if I had to take a break and walk away for a little while, it would be very sad. But again, thanks to y'all, I ain't going any damn where. So without further ado, you know what to do. Get outside and go ride your damn bike.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes